Hello. Welcome to our YouTube channel. If you are new here, please subscribe. This is another video presentation featuring a question on corporation law asked in the 2008 bar exams. Nelson owned and controlled Sunnell Construction Company. Acting for the company, Nelson contracted the construction of a building. Without first installing a protective net atop the sidewalks adjoining the construction site, the company proceeded with the construction work. One day a heavy piece of lumber fell from the building. It smashed a taxicab which at that time had gone off-road and onto the sidewalk in order to avoid traffic. The taxicab passenger died as a result. A. Assume that the company had no more account and property in its name. As counsel for the heirs of the victim, whom will you sue for damages, and what theory will you adopt? B. If you were the counsel for Sunnell Construction, how would you defend your client? What would be your theory? Our skill to come up with a tenable legal theory for the opposing sides is being tested in this problem. The question asks us to come up with something on behalf of our client. In question A, our client are the heirs of the victim, while in B, our client is the defendant corporation. First, the situation. We have a corporation that is liable to pay damages, but it was shown that it has no more account and property in its name, so that suing it will be an exercise of futility. What was shown? That was it Nelson who owned and controlled the corporation. Necessarily, the only way to make Nelson liable is the proper invocation of the doctrine of piercing the corporate veil under the alter ego principle. Alter ego cases. The corporate entity is being used to defeat public convenience, or a mere farce, since the corporation is merely the alter ego, business conduit or instrumentality of a person or another entity. The successful invocation of the doctrine requires, however, the submission before the trial court, relevant evidence to prove that the corporation was a mere conduit and alter ego of Nelson. The doctrine of separate juridical personality and the principle of limited liability, on the other hand, would work to benefit Sunnell Construction. Doctrine of separate juridical personality. A corporation has a legal personality separate and distinct from that of people comprising it. As a consequence, the debts, properties, court actions, contracts, liabilities, tax exemptions, and action of the corporation are not of the stockholders and members comprising the corporation. Principle of limited liability. The corporate debt is not the debt of the stockholder. Thus, being an officer or a stockholder of a corporation does not make one's property the property also of the corporation. Bustos v. Millianshu, Incorporated, GR number 185024, April 24, 2017. Finally, it is best to argue that piercing the veil of corporate fiction is a remedy of last resort and cannot be availed of without clear evidence showing fraud or disrespect of the separate juridical personality of the corporation. The suggested answer to question A is: as counsel for the heirs of the victim, I will implead Nelson in the case that I will file against the corporation, invoking the doctrine of piercing the corporate veil under the alter ego principle. I would argue and prove before the court, through relevant and competent evidence, that the corporate entity was used by Nelson to defeat public convenience and that the corporation was his mere alter ego. Hence, despite the fact that the corporation is engaged in a capital-intensive construction business, it has no account or property in its name. The suggested answer to question B is: as counsel for Sunnell Construction, the task at hand is to prove first that there was no fraudulent intent to use the corporate entity to commit fraud, justify wrong, or defeat public convenience. I would invoke the doctrine of separate juridical personality such that its court actions are not the court actions of its stockholders, Also, the corporate debt is not the debt of the stockholders under the principle of limited liability. To counter the argument that the doctrine of piercing the veil of corporate entity invoked by the opposing counsel, I will argue that the doctrine is a remedy of last resort and cannot be availed of without clear evidence. We hope you learned something useful in this video. Thank you. If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel and like our Facebook page ECS Notes. You may also comment and share this video to your friends. Have a pleasant day.